These are stories of outdoor adventure and expert advice from folks with calloused hands. I'm James Nash, and this is the Six Ranch Podcast. Sitting here watching the sun come through the portholes on the sailboat in a bay in somewhere in Panama?
Bahia Honda.
Bahia Honda. What does Bahia mean?
Bay.
Bay? Yeah.
Honda's like the car.
Tell me, put your mic a little bit closer. We had your audio right, and then you immediately, like as soon as I hit record, you're like
chewing my pineapple. My bad.
So sitting here with Tony Dooley, El Squid, and Mr. Cliff Gray. This is the last day of what's been a pretty epic adventure, and you're just a tremendous adventure dealer, Tony. This is what you do. That's what you are.
I appreciate that. Thank you, James.
Yeah. Tell me about Domingo.
Yeah, so Domingo, he's the old man here in Bahia Honda. He's 80. I know you guys caught his age yesterday, right? Like 88.
He's
88.
Yeah.
Yeah, and still working like he's, 30? I mean, he's a machine. He's a excellent wood carver. He makes plates and like fish statues out of what is the mahogany? Yeah, red mahogany trees on his property. He mills everything himself. It's crazy. Yeah.
Cliff, how would you describe this landscape surrounding this bay?
You know what the main thing that comes to my mind, and it's not like I'm not used to remoteness, but this is like a different level of remoteness. You know what I mean? And it's funny because I don't generally associate that with like a tropical place, you know? But here and then where we were diving, it's like crazy. When I just look at Google Maps, you know, I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe we're out here in the middle of nowhere, you know? Like even Domingo's place, it's to me, it's hard to fathom living out here, like truly remote, like no road access, nothing. Everything's got to come in here on a boat, you know.
What about the terrain and vegetation?
You know, the vegetation is very similar to Puerto Rico. Like I see a lot of the same type of trees and that sort of thing. Obviously, lush green, so that sort of stuff. And then there's a lot of topography here. It's not flat. So, I don't know. I just describe it as thick. You know, it's not somewhere where I don't want to go hunting.
Yeah, it's like incredibly dense jungle, right? So what I'm seeing are like palm trees down near the beach or near the water's edge, and then it gets very steep very quickly, and then just like triple canopy and incredibly dense trees above that, vines, monkeys, like all that business. Pretty wild.
And to me, it's really interesting. Makes a lot of sense. Like the drive from Panama City over to our push-off point there in Santa Catalina is the burning. They burn so much to open up country.
Yeah, there's fires everywhere you look.
Yep.
Do you guys see a similarity in the landscape here, like with these little islands and stuff all clustered together with the San Juan Islands in Seattle, or even like in the Puget Sound? Like
they
look like. Yeah.
It's like a perfect mix of, like you said, Puerto Rico and the Pacific Northwest. I always get Pacific Northwest vibes when we're cruising.
Right. Well, these areas, they feel like little sounds almost. Mm-hmm. Like even when we came out of the wide open ocean, and then just as you get closer and closer, it's like more and more protected, you know? It does remind me of that.
The water is 88 degrees, which is some of the warmest water I've ever been in. So with a 3 mil wetsuit on, especially like the top like 5-6 feet of the water column here is pretty dang hot. So every time you dive, you get to dip into like slightly cooler water, and it's really refreshing to actually get down and get into some of that cooler stuff.
If it weren't for the dang jellyfish, I would dive naked all the time. I mean,
it's a lot of jellies.
It feels so good.
It's a lot of jellies.
Those jellies suck.
Yeah. Am I a jelly magnet, or is that just like part of spearfishing? Because it feels like everywhere I go, I'm getting them on my lips, on my forehead.
We don't get
in Puerto Rico. In Puerto Rico, like you see them and avoid them. Here, it's like you're not avoiding them. It's like a cloud.
Yeah,
you know.
And so many sea turtles out there just chomping away. Let's talk about some of the marine life we've seen. We've seen manta rays. We've seen a couple kinds of sharks. We had a shark kind of bugging us on the reef yesterday.
A couple big hammerheads the first day, I think.
There was a sailfish or a marlin jumping yesterday on the way in.
Yeah.
And we saw one earlier, right? The one that was...
First day on the way out, there was a marlin that was just rocketing out of the water. Dude, the dolphin thing is out of control down here.
So you guys didn't even get the full effect. I mean, you guys got such a little taste of it.
Really?
It's
But folks, imagine you're out in the ocean and you really can't see land, right? So it's just water everywhere you can see. And then for what you can really see in your immediate vicinity very well is like within that 3/4 of a mile range. And imagine everything that you can see in a circle around you in that 3/4 of a mile is just like dolphins jumping out of the water and spinning and crashing, and dolphin fins here, and big pods of dolphins that'll have like 30 members in it. And then, Cliff, when you and I dove down behind that commercial long ship, there was, you could hear them clicking, and
you can hear them.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
Yeah. What always blows me away is the ecosystem underneath those artisanal boats, because they're collecting these logs as they move through the water. That's how they get that ecosystem started. And they'll pull a log to the boat, and they're so slow moving that the bait fish stays with them. And as they move across the bank and across the whole area, the bonita start congregating. And then I think the one boat said they had a marlin kind of following them.
Yeah, hanging out next to them.
And then the tuna come. The tuna a lot of times the tuna are there, but they're down way deep. They're down 200-300 feet, just kind of sitting in the thermocline, waiting to eat. And then maybe one will come up, boom, hit the bait underneath the boat, and then they all start coming, and that's when the long lines start getting fed out.
Sure.
And that's when you want to be there. Unfortunately, it didn't happen for us on this trip.
Yeah.
But when it does happen, it's amazing. I mean, I showed you some of the videos where there's just hundreds of tuna coming behind the boat.
I mean, this is spearfishing for something like a yellowfin tuna, like a fish that is human-sized or bigger. That's like big game hunting. And you can't treat it like you're trout fishing. You can't just go out there and be like, oh, how many are we going to catch today? Like, no, this is going to take days, and it's going to take days and days and days, and you have to work the entire day. And if you're lucky and you do everything right, then you might get an opportunity. And if you get that opportunity, it doesn't mean that you're going to do everything correctly, because it's a high-stress environment. So say there's a bait ball that's up on the surface. There's birds that are diving down into it, and then there's dolphins at the top of the water column, and maybe there's some big predator fish around, like marlin or shark or sailfish or whatever. And we see all this activity. We zoom over to it in this super gourmet 36-foot panga, and you've got two spearfishermen on the back of the boat who have their mask on and their fins on and their wetsuit on, and they're holding on to their giant spear gun, and they're like, I'm sitting back there basically trying to meditate, like going through my breathe up routine and trying to lower my heart rate and not pay attention to what's going on behind me, which is everybody screaming and scrambling and yelling about what's going on. And, you're starting to mark fish and things like that. And I'm supposed to get my heart rate down, not working very well. And then within a moment's notice, cut back on the engines a little bit. Somebody hits you on the shoulder, says, go, you bail out of the boat, get your face in the water, give one check over your spear gun to make sure nothing's tangled, take the deepest breath you can and dive as deep as you can for as long as you can, and hope that you can run into a giant fish that can swim over 50 miles an hour, and then get a spear into him in the right part of his body so it doesn't tear out. Like, it's a lot, dude.
Yeah.
This is a crazy ask of a human being.
That's very well put.
Yeah.
I think
Tony's over there being like, no, it's easy. But I'm over here like, yeah, it's real hard.
No, I mean,
it's the hardest diving by far.
The running gun yellowfin tuna on the dolphin is very hard. You're not doing the drifts and chunking or, like Wahoo and Puerto Rico is very different. We're doing the long drifts and you have all the time in the world to breathe up and the fish show up and it's slow. It's equal. I feel like it's equally as hard, but it's a different approach.
Sure.
Like a tuna, you just got to get in its way. Thing is like, I'm moving, I'm here, I got the shot, boom.
Right.
Where Oahu, it's more cat and mouse, you know. But as far as just like the pure adrenaline rush, this is it.
Yeah.
You know, this is what you want.
I think that's what makes the diving hard for me, though. You know, like flopping off that boat and then hearing dive, and I start diving and I get down to 25 feet and I'm like, I'm out of breath. You know, how am I out of breath already? I think it's just because, like, I look at my watch and my heart rate's 150 before I even go down, you know.
You know, so one of the crazy things, of course, about the mammalian dive reflex is that when you're in the water and you're diving, especially if it's cool water that's hitting your face, your heart rate goes down. There was one day that I dove without a wetsuit, so I could actually see what my heart rate was because the watch was touching my wrist.
Oh, sure.
The Tactics 8 or whatever. I was jacked on the surface. I was swimming hard to get over there. I was overweighted because I was stressed out. So I was stressed out. Took the drop, went down, and was just kind of, I was very, very uncomfortable. I didn't feel like I was ready for it. My alarm went off when I hit 33 feet. And you know, when it went off, I looked at my watch to see how many seconds I'd been down, which was like 14.
Yeah, sure.
And my heart rate was 61 beats per minute.
Yeah, so you're actually pretty low.
So while the stress was high, like my cortisol or whatever, adrenaline, you know, that whole epinephrine cocktail was up. What my heart was actually doing was not moving that stuff around my system nearly as fast. Super interesting. Yeah. Crazy. But Tony, you have a jacked up sense of like what's easy because you can dive, you know, over 100 feet without thinking about it too much. You can, you told me that you can do a 2-minute dive on a full exhale.
Well, no, we were talking about the waterman survival class, how we're doing our rhythmic breathing.
Yeah.
And he'll let go of that 25-pound weight that we ride down to 70 feet.
Yeah.
And I've done it on a full exhale. And it's all equalization. You know, you can hold your breath. You can.
Did you see what he did?
Yeah, I saw it.
What did I do? Did I
he
tweak the question?
He said you could do all this amazing stuff, and you started out with nah, and then you explained how you can.
But you've done it as well, right? It's like
I'm just messing with you.
You guys are nonstop. This has been 4 days of complete debauchery. So you guys are amazing hunters. I don't hunt land animals at all. So what you're able to do with a gun on land, trek days into the mountains and sleep with dudes you don't know in tents, like on top of each other, and then shoot an animal at 300 yards away or whatever the distance is. I don't know. But I mean, to me, that's mind blowing, you know, and just, this is what I do all the time.
Right.
And anybody that hones their craft and spends the time to get good at it, I mean, it's possible. It's not
right.
How long have you been coming over to Panama and leading trips?
This is like my 12th year.
12th year
of doing it. I worked with Spearfishing Panama at Amor Negrito for a while, and then I met Juan, who has the sailboat, and we started doing the liveaboards. And for me, not having to camp on Montuosa or deal with the logistics of bringing stuff in and out that far offshore it was a dream come true. I mean, I love being on this boat, and this crew is amazing, and it just all kind of came together. And I think I've been doing this trip probably 8 or 9 years.
It's pretty unique where we have this 80-foot liveaboard sailboat with berthings for crew and for all of your spearfishermen, as well as this really, really nice, I hate to call that thing a ponga. That's such a nice boat, to actually take us out to the grounds to hunt tuna and then come back into areas like Bahia Honda, which look to me like avatars, like floating islands and phosphorescent water and animals that glow in the dark and, you know, fish that can fly. Like, what? This is crazy. Like, Avatar's real and it's in Panama. But how do you deal with like equipment failure? What would you do if, say, like if your ponga broke down, you needed another boat?
We have backups on backups, you know, like gear wise, as far as the guns and shooting line and bungees and wishbones and muzzle bungees and all that stuff. I have in my room, I have boxes of everything, so I can always replace it. The ponga's a little bit trickier. When when the Panga goes down, I do have a backup in Santa Catalina. Lou, who owns this Panga, has another one. So if something happened to this one, we put out a phone call and then they can run the boat over, bring this one back or whatever. So yeah, it's important to keep the trip going with whatever problems you might have. And thank God, like over the years, I think the biggest problem is always the generator failure on the mothership, because when that goes down, we have no air conditioning.
Yeah.
We got no way to charge our phones, our GoPros and stuff like that. That's what I fear the most, believe it or not. But this Pong is really new. I mean, this was made in Panama City. It's a Caribe Pro. They make it there in Panama City. And it's those motors are 3 years old. And they probably have, less than 1,000 hours on them.
No, super
twin
sweet
150 Yamaha 4-stroke.
Yeah, got radar, fantastic electronics.
Yeah, night vision. That night vision is cool, huh?
Yeah. So you've never like had a boat go down and needed to replace it somehow?
Yeah. So before we had this boat made, this was going back about 5 years. We had the Teleflex cable snap on one of our Pangas, and I was dead in the water. I had to get a boat come from Santa Catalina and pick us up, bring us back, and kind of stuck. Like I had to scramble to make it happen with another Panga to get that trip going. Yeah.
So how did you do that?
Well, my captain Charlie, he's been here for a long time. He knows a lot of people, so he says, "Hey, Papi, I might know somebody that can help us out."
Tranquilo, Papi.
Yeah, Tranquilo, Papi, todo bien. That's his moniker. So I said, "All right, well, what do you got?" And he's like, "Come on, you have to meet the guy. He's an entrepreneur, and and he might have a boat we can use." So he brings me to this bay I've never been to before. I'm like, I didn't even know this little waterway existed in between two headlands.
Yeah.
We go up in there, and it was like straight out of a movie, like, Miami Vice. There's guys checking me in at the dock, and we go up to this house, and there's guys with guns, and I'm just like, what are we getting into here,
Yeah.
So I meet his friend, and he's like, at first he's like, "No way, gringo, like, you don't get my boat."
What was this guy's demeanor like?
Very, very relaxed, very just like, almost like I was a fly on the wall. He was just swatting me away, And we started to get talking, and Carlito, Charlie, my captain, we call him Charlie. We're like, he's trying to make conversation, and he's a very, loud, like funny guy. And in front of this gentleman, he was very like timid and like almost whispering. And he's like, Jefe, listen to this story. So he's telling him this story in Spanish about how I spent all this time in Montuosa, and it would get pretty lonely. And so I would take the tuna. This is the story he's telling me. And I would put the tuna loin in the sun, and we'd have some fun with it, whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, is he really saying this? Like, I'm blushing. I'm like, this is crazy. I can't believe I'm in this actual scenario right now. And so he looks at me. He's like, "In serio, gringo?" And I'm like, yeah, like I'm just going with it, whatever. And so now he's like, "Oh, do you know this guy, that guy from Morro Negrito, And I'm like, "Yeah, of course. I worked with him for years over it." "Okay, I'm going to let you use one of my boats." So we like go back and forth. We come up with a price, and he's like, "You can take the boat. You got to pay me the cash in between trips, and you got to bring me a tuna in between every trip. But no se joda." I'm like, "Okay, Papi, like no problem, cool." So I ended up running the guy's boat. It was a 30-foot Panga with twin 300s. Yeah. It was the most ridiculous vessel. Like the
would
thing,
turn inside out.
You put it at like half throttle, and this thing was blasting your eyeballs out, And yeah, we had a good season on that boat, and he ended up going on vacation after we left for a long extended vacation.
Yeah,
I never got to see him again, but
yeah.
But we made it work is the point of the story.
Yeah.
We did what we had to do.
Yeah, trading cash and fish to solve a solution with a Central American entrepreneur.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, it takes creative hustle. Anytime that you're working in a foreign country or just it could be your own country in an environment that's foreign to you, if if you are on an expedition, there are going to be things that go wrong, and you're going to have to just figure it out. And that just means talking to people and being like, yo, this has happened to somebody else before. How did they solve it? You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Any sort of trip like this, like the first thing to make sure everything is covered is the safety of everybody.
Sure.
You know, like it's great to have extra shooting line and stuff that you're going to have to replace along the way, but also the med kit is a big part of our experience out here with, you know, all the hemostat and tourniquets and like the things stacked with. I've had a lot of doctors come and bring me various things that they left along the way, and that's always number one. Make sure that's with us, and then and gear wise, boat wise, crew wise, just keeping everything. The anxiety for me on that is always the worst. Getting the fish, that's always secondary because it's, you know, the first part has to be done before you can even attempt to get the fish.
Right.
And then you made a good point before about how you can do these kind of trips and the success rate or whatever of landing that big tuna, landing the big wahoo. It's variable depending on the conditions, things that are out of your hands. But at the end of the day, how was the trip? How was the adventure? Like, what else did you do?
Sure.
Yeah. To make it like a good time and memories.
Dude, another condition that's been out of hand is a change in regulations. And it's really mind-blowing to me. So part of this area was closed, but it wasn't closed to commercial longline fishing. It wasn't closed to guided or recreational fishing. It was closed to spearfishing and spearfishing only. And you got a call from freaking Greenpeace about this? Like warning you to stay out of there?
It was a guy that worked for them. Yeah. And I appreciated the call because he was just giving me the heads up. I mean, basically what it was is there's two marine protected areas. There's one that goes around Koiba Island, which is the UNESCO heritage marine park. So that's always been completely closed. You can rod and reel fish in there with a permit, but it's all catch and release.
Yeah.
Then the other marine protected area encompasses Hannibal Bank, Montuosa, in that area. It's a big swath of ocean. We had been allowed to, you can spearfish. The commercial guys are longlining in there. All the boats from up in Boca Chica and Pedicea that are doing the rod and reel charters are fishing in there. He let me know basically just before I left for my first trip that now only spearfishing was closed in that area. Everybody else can still go in there and fish and keep what they catch. But spearfishing was closed in that triangle, which really limited about, half of our fishable area.
I don't get it. And do you think it's that people don't understand what spearfishing is?
No, I think it's the charter boats rallied against. Our voice is very small.
Yeah.
And the charter boat voice is very big here in Panama. I mean,
sure,
rod and reel charter fishing is one of the best places in the world to come, right?
So do they not like the spearfisherman because it's competition, or they don't want to have to look out for divers that they're going to run over?
I think it really originates at the bank. Hannibal Bank is a pinhead in the ocean. It's a very small pinnacle. So when you have 4 to 5 clients in the water with 100-foot bungee to a float, and that's now you have 500 feet of line.
Yep.
It closes that pinhead off to the guys that want to troll, live bait, jig, whatever they're doing. Now they can't get in that area, and the currents are constantly moving. So I've seen it happen where a client will go across the motor and they don't move. Now the bungee's wrapped in the motor. It creates chaos.
Yeah.
So that's where it originated from. And they said, hey, we don't want to have spearfishing on the bank.
Right.
I never take people to the bank. After like 4 or 5 years ago, I'm like, this is too crazy. There's boats zipping everywhere.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to get hurt. I don't want to piss these guys off. Let's just chase dolphin. It's more fun anyway.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's like, I think the success rate's better than sitting there waiting for a big fish to come up off the bank and eat your chum.
Right.
So, I stayed off the bank, and we would just do that whole area, kind of where we did, but even on the other side of the island.
Yeah.
And now it's they took away half of the area to spearfishing, and I'm all for conservation. I'm all for creating a habitat for these fish to just keep keep going. But when you're just taking it away from people that are taking a very small percentage of the fish out of the water, but everybody else keeps doing their thing, doesn't feel right.
Look, I love it all, right? I love trolling with outriggers out and doing that whole thing. I love spearfishing. I like all of it. I like recreating. Okay, but if you're trolling and you've got outriggers out and you've got 3 rods on each side of the boat, there's a good chance that you're probably 200 yards behind the boat and spread out over 20 or 30 feet of ocean. That's taking up more room than your 4 divers with 4 floats in the water. And I get it. I really do. Especially in fishing, everyone just wants their own fair advantage, right? And it is competitive. Yeah, it's frustrating to me that somebody would want to push that hard to say, no, this one thing gets excluded from a giant area, because what it looks like is like, oh, the spearfishermen are taking too many fish. I think that's, from the outside in, that's what people would think, and nothing could be farther from the truth.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. I mean, I side with the rod and reel guys on the bank issue. Like, yeah. I do. I've seen it happen over and over again, and I
draw a circle around it. Like, say nothing like within a mile of this point.
Yeah, that's closing it down. But to take away 150 square miles of fishable area for us because of one square mile, why not? If we had a voice, somebody to say, hey, look, why don't we just give you this 1 square mile around the bank or whatever it is, but give us the dolphin,
right?
In the thousands of feet of water where we can spread out.
I think the reality is it comes from the fact that there's just no spearfishermen at the table.
There is.
So they're just like, hey, this is annoying. Just put a big broad brush if they can't be in this huge area.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's probably like the biggest thing on all this stuff.
I mean, if we could do it, I would do the same. If we had a bigger voice than they did, and I could say, hey, let's get rid of the rod and reel guys in Puerto Rico because they keep trolling way too close to us because we're chumming. They know we're chumming, and they're going to pass right by us to try and hook up a fish in our area, which is illegal. They're not allowed to come when we have our dive flag up. They can't come in our circle. They do.
Close.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. That's a case of like somebody's already breaking an existing rule. You don't need another rule that they're just going to continue to break, right?
Correct.
Tony, I'm going to butcher his name, but Roberto in Puerto Rico, like OG spearfishing.
Roberto Reyes.
Yeah. So I had a conversation with Roberto Reyes. They tried to ban spearfishing in Puerto Rico, correct?
I think that was on the table for, I don't know if it still is.
No, but back in the day, and there were some spearfishermen involved in,
and he spearheaded that whole, no pun intended, but he's to thank for spearfishing still being allowed for sure.
Yeah, and it's interesting to think about that. Like Puerto Rico, if him and maybe a couple other guys, I don't know all the details. Like if they weren't at the table, would there maybe be no spearfishing in Puerto Rico?
It's quite possible.
It's pretty wild,
and it still could happen at any moment.
Yeah, it comes up.
One thing happens and they just say, hey, like, they follow the laws of like the BVI where you can't even have a spear gun on your boat over there. It's
Are there subsistence spear gun fishermen in Puerto Rico?
Say that again?
Subsistence spear gun fishermen? Like, are there folks there who are doing that to get food for their family or make their living?
I would imagine. Yeah.
Besides, because you're recreational and commercial and you're diving there, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, I do it to, whether it's a charter or I'm going out commercial diving.
Yeah.
I'm doing it to feed my family, not directly from the fish always, but I sell the fish to me.
Yeah. Sell the fish and buy beef.
That's right. Love my hamburgers.
I don't know if I trade Wahoo for hamburgers, man. And I'm a red meat guy.
All day. You know what you sit there and like when we have guests in town and I'm just chumming all day, right? I'm just cutting barracuda or tuna or whatever I have that I'm using for chum racks. And I get home and whoever is visiting me, let's go get sushi tonight.
So the Hawaiians call Wahoo Ono, right?
Right.
Do you know what Ono means?
I don't.
Yeah. I got a little bit confused by this. I'm learning more and more Hawaiian words all the time as I hang out with them and spend time over there. But we were eating some yellowfin, some ahi, and my friend goes, "Oh yeah, it's super ono." I was like, "Okay, so yellowfin is a super wahoo," and then something else happens. Somebody's eating something, and they're like, super ono. I was like, "Well, that's super ono too. That's candy." And I was like, "What does ono mean?" Like, obviously, I'm getting this wrong. Ono means delicious.
Huh.
Right? Mahi means strong, and ono means delicious. So their word for wahoo means this freaking thing tastes good. Yeah, love it, and it does. It's one of my favorite sashimis that there is. Period.
Yeah, wahoo's great.
Yeah,
nothing beats wahoo.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, even my kids, they'll eat it over tuna when I put it like sashimi, which is weird. I feel like because I'll talk to people who've never tried it, or even rod and reel guys. I know they're always like, "Oh, it's a fish that you cook." I don't think I've cooked any of the wahoo I've shot in Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
it's so like compared to tuna too. It's really versatile. Like you can make tacos with it. You can cook it through as long as you don't cook it too long. It's really good.
Yeah,
it's ceviche, whatever you want to do. It's where tuna's kind of limited to the steaks or poke or whatever.
Right.
So we've got a half day left here. We're motoring in the sailboat right now. We're gonna do a little reef dive, pack up some stuff, and then we're gonna hit it and head back to the beach and start doing a long trek home. It took me 3 days to get here. Be a little bit less going home. On the reef out here, what's the number one fish for eating that we should be targeting?
I mean, those broomtail groupers are really good, and all the pargos. We got a bunch of different species. Snapper, a bunch of different species of snappers. What's cool about the spot where we go today, we got a little taste of it last night, but you can start in the blue water. It's a few hundred feet, 400 or 500 feet, and we drift right up onto that rock ledge. So a lot of times, I mean, this is one of the best wahoo spots in the area. Yeah. So you could see wahoo, you could see sailfish, you could see mahi. Anything real, and tuna as well. I mean, tuna, the little tunas will come up in here. Yeah. So it's always like head on a swivel approaching that wall, and then once you get into the reef, it changes to the snappers. And what did you shoot yesterday? You had Nassau grouper.
I thought it was a Nassau grouper. That's why I didn't shoot it, Tony. And then you told me it was okay.
Yeah, Nassau grouper.
Yeah, it wasn't a Nassau grouper, but they look like them. It's just you're saying they're darker.
Yeah. It's a different species. I think they do call it cabrilla here, which is okay. There's also a cabrilla in Puerto Rico, but that's the strawberry grouper.
I got you.
And the cabrilla in Baja is a totally different grouper.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's interesting. And Cliff and I talked about this, but in Spanish, a lot of these words end up getting used a lot more universally. So pargo could be many different kinds of snapper, right?
Well, pargo basically means snapper.
Right.
So like you say snapper in English, you're not saying whether it's a mutton snapper or a red snapper, right? So it's just a generalized snapper.
Yeah.
And then each snapper will have its own
sure.
Like they have the Huanchinango here, they call it, and that's the red snapper.
Yeah.
So
yeah, gotcha.
A lot of different words and variations of
No, it's interesting. It's a cool place. It's a cool adventure. If are you going to do this again?
I don't know, man. I'm kind of coming towards the end of it here, just because of with the new boat in Puerto Rico and everything going on there. I kind of want to concentrate on that a little bit more. And the closures, like I have to find out what the actual regulations are, because everything I'm hearing is secondhand.
Yeah.
So I want to dig into it and see, but I don't want to come out here and dive where I'm not supposed to. Or,
sure.
I think that's an interesting dynamic, though, that a lot of people in the States don't realize. That it seems like in the Caribbean and down here, like regulations, it's not like the annual book comes out.
Correct.
And you just pull up the book on the internet and everything's cut and dry. It's like sometimes you don't really know what the rules are.
Yeah. So they did this a few years back where they said Hannibal Bank was closed to spearfishing, and everybody was sharing it on social media. And I had Juan contact his buddies in the government to find out exactly what was going on. And apparently the charter boat captains have a meeting every, couple times a year. And they had passed within their meeting, hey, no spearfishing on the bank. It wasn't a law, but it was like a suggestion from
it's just notes.
The Charter Boat Association of Cherokee or Panama or whatever you want to call it. So we continued spearfishing. We had no problem. We were talking to the boats. Nobody said anything.
Yeah.
It was fine. But now what I'm hearing is because of the UNESCO, they're really pushing to preserve this area.
Sure.
They put a radar tower up on Coiba. Everybody has they have to check in before they go fishing at the ranger station. So it's a good thing that they're doing this. Like, I'm all for it.
Right.
But again, I would rather it just be a fair playing field for all types of fishing, not just.
When we did that albacore trip off Oregon last year, there was some really mixed feelings about us even going out there to try it. And a lot of people were like, yo, this is too dangerous. What are you thinking? Shouldn't be exposing yourself to this kind of risk. Other people were like, oh, you're stupid. And then other people were like, cool, good luck, And then while we were out there, we were able to do what the electronics and nothing else could do, which was descend into the water with human eyeballs and see where the thermocline was exactly, how thick it was, where those fish were. And, as we're making those drops and learning about this, we're coming up on the radio, and in Oregon, everybody helps each other. Like, if somebody finds fish, they're like, yo, there's freaking fish over here. And all the boats come, and everybody helps each other out. It's not like that everywhere. That's how it is there. So as we're like getting this real world information, talking on the radio, dude, the other boats were like, we should have divers on every trip,
Pretty good info.
Yeah. That's how it starts.
Yeah.
That's how it starts.
Yeah.
I've got about 15 years blue water in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, I couldn't find somebody to come diving with me. It was me and one other guy, Pat Wetzel. We go every single day trying to shoot our first.
That's where I'm at home.
Trying to shoot our first wahoo. We're like, are we going? Yeah, we're going. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And it took us months to get our first one on the boat.
Yeah.
And all the fishermen are like, you guys are crazy. How cool is this? We get back to the marina. They're high-fiving us. We're all friends. Fast forward 5 years, and they're like, hey, you guys think you could, like, maybe not take that area over there because you guys are scaring the fish with your big spear guns. Then it turns into, oh, man, there's too many sharks here because you guys are feeding them all day.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's just like they hate us. They don't even want us in the water because
I think that's in all these type of activities that are based on a resource. Like hunting is like that.
Yeah.
But it's always it's weird because how I observe spearfishing right now is people are really inviting overall.
Right.
On your side of the island.
Well, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Because it isn't as much pressure.
But
right?
but also as a
freshwater,
community,
freshwater spearfishermen.
Yeah.
A lot of them will take you right to like their spots.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like it's this evolution, right? If more and more people get into it, it will come to the point where it's competitive. You know what I mean? And
dude, right now the National Freshwater Spearfishing Association has a map that its members can sign up for, and it puts a pin and your contact on that map for where you live. And if you're traveling, you just call somebody in that area and say, yo, I'm coming through Lake Michigan in a month. I wonder if you could take me out. And everybody who's put their name out there is like, yeah, absolutely, we'll figure it out. And that is something that is very rare within all of hunting and fishing that we do have right now. And I think that of all of it that I've experienced, spearfishermen are very inviting. And I think part of it is that this is there's a risk to what we do, right? To an extent, we can't breathe underwater. That's where we're going to fish. There's barotrauma that people can experience with their ears. There's predators down there that are bigger than us. There's things that can happen there, and we really need each other's support to do this thing safely and selectively. Yeah.
Is a lot of the freshwater spearfishing you guys are taking out invasive species, correct?
A lot of it is invasive species, but there's also a few states where you can, like Wyoming, for example, it's the same regs, same take limits for species as rod and reel. Just have to use a spear gun and be submerged.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And hopefully that can happens in other states,
Yeah.
I think that's when you're going to see a huge upsurge in freshwater spearfisherman. When you can start shooting stuff that you can eat.
Yeah.
And then
because at Oregon right now, it's just invasives and non-game species, and those aren't good table fare.
Right.
Is there a slot limit on a lot of this freshwater species? So is that their reasoning why you can't spearfish? Because
slot limits are incredibly uncommon in freshwater.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is the reason that you can't spearfish, but you can do all these other types of techniques?
I think that there hasn't been adequate demand yet, and there's a misunderstanding about what spearfishing is. And if you were to go to YouTube right now and Google spearfishing, you would see somebody calmly kick down into clear water and approach a fish and shoot it with a high-tech spear gun and then drag it to the surface. And if you didn't know better, you might think that it's pretty darn easy. But there aren't any YouTubes of guys spending 12 hours a day in a panga driving around the ocean at full throttle, tasting their own kidneys, looking for a fish that they never find.
Right.
That doesn't get the clicks, right? So it's a really hard thing. Like it took me 3 days just to get here. It took me 3 days. When's the last time you traveled anywhere for 3 days just to start doing something? And then the thing that we're trying to do, which I've described a little bit, is very difficult. Yesterday, when Cliff and I were diving on the reef, every time either one of us shot a fish, a shark showed up that the other person had to try and scare off a little bit. It's not a normal thing. It's hard, but it's doable. It's there. It's accessible. If somebody reaches out to somebody like Tony and says, "Hey, I need some help. Will you take me on a guided spearfishing trip and show me what this is all about? Keep me safe so that I can dip my toes in the water and see if this is for me."
Yeah. I had a client once say to me after one of these trips, he's like, "Man, it's like a ghost, like you're going out looking for a ghost. Like, obviously they're there, right?
Yeah.
Once you find it, you get the tuna.
You're like, ghosts are real.
It loses. It doesn't lose its allure, but the allure changes.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now it's there.
Yeah.
And now you want to seek what you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, so once you cross that, oh my gosh, this is not only is it doable, but it's it takes a lot of effort, takes a lot of movement.
Yeah.
But it's doable. Then that's like the real poison, right? Because now you're like, I need to go.
Yeah.
I need to go do that trip again, or it's just like the dangling fruit.
Yeah.
So if somebody's going to want to go blue water, reef, whatever, spearfishing with you in Puerto Rico, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, lifebelowthesurface.com is the website. LSquid, LEL_squid on Instagram. And I just keep everything up to date on there, and they can see what's going on. We're about to move to back to Puerto Rico for the next couple months, and then we might do a couple Alaska trips this year, just like private trips. And then Wahoo season starts in October, November. We're going to have a lodge on the south coast of Puerto Rico, and it's a great trip, man. Yeah.
Cliff, what's your one piece of advice for somebody who wants to get started in spearfishing?
Go with somebody who's really good.
Yeah.
Go with somebody who's really good. I'm not trying to pander to Tony because because he's Tony, but Tony is good. Plus, he's like a good teacher.
Yeah.
And I think that's hard to find. I mean, it's hard to find in hunting. It's hard to find in spearfishing. Like somebody that's open to showing you the whole deal and making sure you enjoy it. You know? I mean, Tony's one of the few guys, and tell me if I'm wrong, Tony, but you're willing to take guys who are they have some comfort in the water, but they really haven't dove that much.
I prefer that. Yeah. Over the guys that are experienced and know what they're doing already. I like to relive that first fish through their eye. I mean, that's for me, it's the best part.
And the thing is like, it's even more so as spearfishing, because I think you can, maybe you've experienced this too, James, but you can swim around, think you're learning how to spearfish for 10 years, but really you just have your thumb up your ass.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You're not doing it.
You're lost in the sauce.
Yeah. So you got to go, spearfish with a guy like Tony, go take a class.
Take a class first. That's the number one thing to do is to take a class, both for learning your techniques, but also safety. Once you have that class under your belt, man, the sky's the limit.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the other thing is if you dive a bunch before you take a class, when you take the class, you're going to be like, wow, I'm surprised I'm not dead already.
Facts.
You know what I mean?
Hard facts
know,
right there.
Yeah, you don't realize what you've been doing, you know?
There's also, that's a whole nother thing that I've got to get into at some point. But you go to these dive schools, it's like, okay, this is how we dive. This is how you dive when you're spearfishing. If you don't do this, certain death.
Right.
And then the next time you go spearfishing, you're like, okay, this is how we're going to do it. And the wheels inevitably fall off a little bit. Yeah. So there's always a difference between the school and the church as it goes. But no, do take a free dive class. They're very accessible. They're great.
One thing too that has helped me, and I see it's helped a lot of people, is find a really good dive buddy that is on your same level of ability and stoke, and you guys are going to push each other.
Yeah.
You take the class together, you know, you go on these trips together, and you're always trying. It's competitive, but it's a healthy competitiveness, and you push each other in a way that a guide can't push you, or random strangers you do a trip with can't push you. It's, For me, that helped me get really good at spearfishing really fast.
Sure. Or even, go take a class with like 3 of your buddies.
Yeah.
One will drop out and you'll still have 2. Yeah. You'll still have 2 good buddies to go spearfishing with every year.
It's like the Marines, you know?
High rate of attrition. Okay. Well, I don't want to take up any more of everybody else's time because we've got other folks here on the boat who are waiting on us. But thanks, man, for another incredible trip. We need to talk about Alaska as soon as I hang this thing up. But no, this has been awesome, and truly, like it. I understand that what we're doing here has a potential to be dangerous, and I wouldn't be down here doing it if I didn't trust you to keep me safe.
Thank you.
And there's been a number of things that I was about to do that you said gently, hey, don't do that. Would be cooler if you didn't, you know? And that's also really nice too, because you're gentle with my ego. You're trying to build me up and make me better at all this stuff. You answer all my stupid questions. And it's just an interesting blend of living in a magical environment and trying to do a violent thing in the most peaceful way we can. And that's just my favorite way to live.
I got to say to you too, as well, like we've did Seattle together and Puerto Rico and Panama now. And man, I admire you guys and what you guys do in your department and having you on the boat. And I learned from you as well. You know, I just want to let you know that it's always a good time with you guys, and people like you are definitely like, it's time well spent, and I learn a lot.
Okay. Well, I think that's enough of that. All right.
The video version comes out soon.
The wheels are falling off. Bye, everybody.
Thank you to everyone who has taken the time out of their busy lives to write a review for the show and share it with their friends. I'm extremely proud of how intelligent, engaged, and adventurous this audience is. Original music for the Six Ranch podcast is written and performed by Justin Hay. Art for the Six Ranch podcast was created by John Chatelain and digitized by Celia Harlander. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.